All right. Good morning, Odrine.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
I'm drinking tea instead of coffee today. I'm really proud of myself. Less calories, less fat in my throat. I'm really excited. Do you drink anything for breakfast or anything to start your day?
I drink juice, apple juice, and I don't drink coffee. I've never drank coffee my entire life. But I like tea. Tea's pretty good.
Tea is good. What kind of tea do you usually drink?
I like chamomile. I like peppermint. Those are like my go-to.
Nice.
Some ginger tea if I'm not feeling so well.
All right, guys, we're going to get started. Odrine, initial training, cycle development. Are you ready to rock and roll today?
I'm super ready to rock out today.
Odrine, what makes you so good at initial training? Why do you think this is your strength? What do you think? Because you were the girl in high school that I would have copied off of, because I wasn't good at this type of stuff. I was terrible at homework and I lacked structure. So why do you think this is your strength, and what's inspired you to be so good at it?
I honestly feel like initial training is really just a systematic approach to something. As long as you know the target, you pretty much are able to know exactly what you need to do. If you do the right things consistently and you see results, why change it? So I feel like my entire time growing into management and also I'm running an office now, I just been doing pretty much the same things over and over again and getting results. A lot of managers have like highs and lows, and I can say, like, knock on wood, one of the things that kept me locked in and kept my office up was the fact that I always knew how to keep new hires, like learning and growing, retaining them, at least for the first 3 weeks. Now, after that, that obviously becomes like relationship with the leaders. So I
Yeah.
feel like I perfected it over time. I'm still learning about how to make it even more, systematic. But yeah, I feel like we already have a lot of tools. And the COD that I'm going to go over today is just going to break them down into 3 weeks because I like to go in depth on things. And the best thing about this business is to make it as simple as possible so everyone can follow it.
Yeah, we talk a lot about recruiting, which is obviously huge, but once people start, you see the offices with the structure, they really make a difference in the retention. And that, for me, I remember recruiting people and, you'd kind of have them on your crew and then it was like, well, what structure do I follow? Like, what do I do the first week? What do I do the second week? I know, Odrine, you've always had it. You covered this cycle development piece a few months back, which was, my guys went crazy over it. They're like, oh my God, she has a system. It's on this day, you do this day. And it really helps because if you could recruit a bunch of people, but if you're not retaining them, and people, they leave if they don't feel like there's structure. If they don't feel like there's something for them to fall back on, especially, we know people take a risk on this. A lot of us have never done sales before. A lot of us have never done, door to door. We're like, hey, I'm going to take a chance on this business because I believe in the opportunity. Where you as a leader have to look at that when people start on your team. You think, do you have a structure that they go into? And of course, you adapt the structure, which you'll talk about, Odrine. But what I love about this subject, it gives you guys a template to follow when someone starts. And does it work every single time? No, it's not about it working 100% of the time. But what your job is to do is to network with people like Odrine, network with people who have really good structure to increase the odds of retention when someone starts. When I was going through the field, I can't tell you how unorganized I was. And I remember thinking, well, I guess it's just about motivation and I just got to, power through it. It is about motivation, but if you add structure to what a lot of you guys have as a strength in terms of drive, passion, goals, dreams, this is the type of thing that can take you to the next level. Odrine already has the passion, the drive, and the dreams. She has the structure, and that's why she's doing so well. She's got 4 outside deals. She's currently in Long Island running FiOS 5G. As Inspire as a cross-sell, or is that a full campaign for you?
That is a cross-sell.
Nice. I was talking to Jared about that yesterday. So we have a great list of speakers coming up, guys. It's a whole new template of speakers, kind of similar subjects, but a little bit different. We got R&R in 5 weeks. We got regional meetings coming up in May. Daylight savings just happened. So the days are longer. So that's great for our business. So yeah, guys, take notes. As you guys know, we're going to do a format that goes about 25-30 minutes today. Odrine said maybe even 10 to 15, and then we're going to leave it open for Q&A, which is why I think it's so important for you guys to message the rest of your leaders in the office, have them ask questions. We're going to try to get to all of them. You guys bombarded us with Helen a couple weeks ago, which was great, but please ask questions. And at the end, we're going to do a Q&A with Odrine. So, all right, Odrine, the floor is yours.
Awesome. So I'm super excited, everyone, to go over COD, Cycle Development, not Call of Duty. I actually ran this topic in Atlanta when Lamine hosted their conference over there. So it was really exciting because, once you have that new start, you put a lot of work into recruiting. I know we've been talking about it for a lot of weeks. And once they're in the building, what do you do? So we pretty much start all new hires with a week 1 training. And we, as a leader, talking about myself and the leaders, kind of have a good understanding of what we need to do. So for week 1, we introduce to the new hires not only what week 1 training is going to entail, but also the new hire understands, hey, I'm going to be learning all these things, right? So we introduce the position, right? I go over saying that, hey, every day that you come to the office, you're going to need a notebook and a pen. We're going to be teaching you lessons. These lessons are not to be kept in your notebook, but I'm expecting for you to teach it with next week and the week following. So they get their checklist. One of the checklists that they receive is our teach back checklist. So 5 steps, 8 steps, the typical marketing systems. The second checklist they receive is also, the ZDA tracker, which is kind of like a fun notion of figuring out where they are. My favorite part of the ZDA tracker is the why. I'm like, you didn't even make it that far. You start from Z to A because you want to be an A player. And just saying, hey, why did you not do VZ Learn yet? So a lot of times I even visit offices and they'll say, hey, this person didn't do VZ Learn. I'm like, they would never even pass my tracker and they'll be kind of embarrassed, right? Then I kind of go over orientation. I have my HR team go over orientation as well. It's very straightforward. Orientation is just making sure that background check was done, making sure that headshot was done, and going over digital documents. I don't want to go too much into DigiDocs. I know like Amani has the best breakdown on digital documents. And besides her, Jess Irish is another person to go over digital documents. And there's a lot of information and content that you could set standards there. So we make sure that the new hires know that, hey, this is a position, just like your past position where there's rules and standards and expectations and certain questions that you have, and also standards that we need you to follow are literally in the documents that you just signed. So we go over that as well. So next, we actually go over, the position, the hours in the schedule, right? For our office, the hours are a little bit different from the training to the actual start of the day. We have our new hires come in earlier, kind of like to set the tone. And also, if you're able to come in early, they have a good habit of coming in early every single day after the training. I kind of go over the target. I know qualifications on files. I am a files office. So if you do water or anything else, I'm sorry, you could convert them. I know Verizon, most offices do 8 and 8. In my office, we pushed it to 10. I'm leader heavy. When you're leader heavy, you want to have higher targets because they're going to be seeing a lot of people do 10s and 12s. So I want them to match, not lower. And then also going over the checklist. I say every day you come into the office, this checklist is the first thing I'm going to ask for. I walk into Atmel, I'm like, where's your checklist? You should have it ready. You should know where it is. One of my biggest pet peeves is saying, seeing a new hire just sitting in the corner, doing nothing, twiddling their thumb. Why are you twiddling your thumb? You have a checklist. You're supposed to learn or practice and study it. Dress code. I'm a stickler for this. If you see me, I got my nice suits all the time. And I expect you to match my flow. You're in my office, right? So I know we had a interview come in for orientation, and on his Zoom, I'm telling you, Van, he had a hoodie on, slouching, and I nipped it quickly. I said, hey, if you're gonna work in our office, not mine, our office, you're gonna have to come in for, for your orientation, dressed to impress. And let me tell you something, he came in here so suave. All my leaders were nervous. They're like, oh my God, he looks so sharp. I don't want to talk to him. And I was like, you guys have no idea that what he looked like before he even walked to this building. So you'll be surprised that even getting someone to look the part can make them, step up into this role and take it more seriously, right? I also have, my trainers go over the PowerPoint, and I like the fact, at first we had one person do it. I like the fact that different leaders do it. So they kind of get a sense of different people's coaching style and everyone has an input on it. Also, it makes my leaders fight for that person when they are going over the PowerPoint trainings. I know a lot of offices go over the lessons of 5 steps, 8 steps, pitch, product knowledge, and quizzes the first week. I actually do it through PowerPoint because I like visuals. So they kind of just go over the systems really straightforward. And we say, hey, you've been here for 2 days. Congratulations, you're committed. Tomorrow on your 3rd day, you're going to take a quiz. They're like, a quiz? We just started. Yes, we're serious. We're here for you to grow. And then unless you know the information, it's going to be hard for you to grow. So we have them take a bundles and package quiz, meaning every internet, every cable package, I need you to know the price, the features, and also how to make the package by scratch. All my files people, I know we all cannot sometimes stand optics because it slows down, and you cannot tell me you lost a sale because you didn't know the price. My guys can literally take a piece of paper, write the package details, and tell the customer what the service is because they already did that in their first week of training. So on the next slide, we pretty much go over, the ZDA tracker one more time because I just mentioned it. I didn't really go through it yet. I go over the ZDA tracker on the third day, not really the first day, only because at this point, they should have a lot of things for me to highlight. So they kind of get excited about, hey, we went over, a lot of things so far. Look how much you learned in your first 3 days at our office, right? And I prep them for evaluations. Now, two things happen. When I mention the word evaluations, they always get scared. I want you to be scared. I want you to be nervous. I want you to be excited because I want you to know that I need you to know this pitch. If you don't know the pitch, you're not going to be able to make a presentation. And more importantly, you won't be able to make a sale. So I let them know that, hey, I'm going to have you tell the pitch, say the pitch in front of all my leaders, not to embarrass you, not to scare you, but also if you could do it here, the field is going to be very simple for you, right? I also kind of want them to break comfort zones in the office versus just letting the field filter them out. And also in the office, they have a lot of support because if they surprise themselves, the whole office gets excited and cheers them on. Now, tablet one-on-one questions is super essential. I know yesterday, one of my leaders said, hey, this new hire didn't get a tablet questions yet? I'm like, she just started. But it's good that they hold it at a high standard. Tablet questions is not building the tablet. Tablet questions are exactly, 20 things that will go wrong on the field. I know it sounds crazy, but let me tell you something. The reason why people leave is because they get frustrated, because they feel like they don't know how to grow or make a sale, and they feel like they don't have the answers. And sometimes people are a little bit too shy to call their leaders or call me. So we actually force them to know the solutions to problems, right? So a couple questions on the tablet 101 is, what's the password to the tablet? If you do not say 01 or capital V, you're going to fail. Why? Because you're going to lock my tablet out, then I have to email Trey and Vanessa, and it's a whole deal, right? Another question is, what happens if the red box for credit verification pops up, right? Some guys say, I have no idea what that is. My guys will verbally tell me, you have to call this number, you have to give them the order number, you have to have 2 forms ID for the customer ready to provide. So I'm having my new hires get ready for challenges. So when they face it, it minimizes their stress and has them focus more on just moving forward. Another thing that we like to go over is territory. Territory is huge because if you get lost, you can get frustrated as well. And also hopping territory to territory. We kind of make sure that you understand that you want to stay focused, you want to stay in one location, and you want to let garden theory play its role. And if you jump out of it, you're going to mess with gumball theory. And if you don't know what gumball theory is, you going from one tree to another because it's not feeding you. I know Brian called me from PA and he was like, did you know they hop territories? I'm like, oh no, like that's the biggest 911. And you kind of want to explain the why. You don't want to say you're bad. You say, hey, I know you're trying to make a sale, right? But let me teach you this theory called gumball, which is why we stay in our area, even when it looks challenging. And just trust me and trust the process, right? Besides that, we go over field prep and expectations. I make it really fun and light. I say, hey, tomorrow, just make sure you bring your sneakers, layers. I want you to bring 3 layers on the bottom, 3 layers on the top. Why? Because I'd rather you take layers off versus tell me you're cold. Especially because it's winter time, which is fake winter this year. Just saying, you guys have it easy compared to my time. It was like -5 degrees when I was on the field, but it's cool. So I make a little joke like that and they're like, yeah, it's nice. So getting their mentality up. I always let them know they have to have campaign apparel. It's really big for us on FIOS, 2 forms all the time. And then I tell each new hire, because the leaders sometimes forget, make sure you call me at the end of the day. I don't care if it was a good day or bad day, a scared day, timid day, make sure you call me. Why? I want them to know that I want to be the person you vent to after you see what the field looks like. So if they don't speak to me in the office, because sometimes we have the guys, break their day downs and they fly out of here, right? I say, you make sure you speak to me. If you don't have a chance to speak to me, make sure you and I connect, because I always feel like I will talk to my leaders. Oh yeah, my God had a great day. It was so fun. He loved it. And I'm looking at the new hire and he's like trembling in fear. And I'm like, how do you not see in his eyes that he is terrified, right? So I know that I can read people a little bit stronger. So I want to make sure I set those expectations, right?
Yeah. Well,
so the next thing we pretty much, go ahead.
Real quick, I think it's important if you're a leader on this call, I think one of the things we do is we think that if we explain negatives to people, or we preempt them on the negatives, that it's going to like, scare them. So we, I know a lot of people try to hide the negatives. They're afraid to talk about it, where in reality, it actually helps people retain better, because Odrine has a structure of how she prepares people. She makes them understand the tablet. She makes them understand what to wear. She makes them know the 20 reasons, things that will go wrong. She's having them practice their pitch, take a quiz, getting them nervous. But really, Odrine, it seems like all these people are much better prepared because of the things you tell them that are going to happen before they actually happen. And again, every office has a little bit of a different structure in how they start. But the good thing for you guys is you can take some of this stuff to your owner. And if your owner's not on the call, you can say, hey, can we do some of these things? Can we implement some of this structure to make the training experience better, to have these people be more prepared? Telling people what to wear is really important, right, Odrine? If someone comes to the office and they don't have the proper shoes, they don't have the proper attire, they're not dressed warm enough, they're going to go home. And that might be the last day that they work there if they think this company doesn't prepare them. So I love how much in that first week you're talking about what's going to happen next, and you're preempting them for all the things that they're about to experience. So when they experience them, you're like, I told you so. So anyways, I think it's just a really important concept that sometimes we think, well, let's just show them the field, and when they get an objection or when they get a hard no, we'll deal with it at the moment. No, you want to preempt them for all that stuff before they ever hit the field. You know what I mean? So it's just something that everybody's got to think about. How prepared are the new people in their first week for what's going to happen over the next 3-4 weeks? Sorry, I just wanted to add that comment.
Definitely. And exactly what you mentioned. It's really frustrating when we're so detailed on this, because if a new hire doesn't last long, we know and they know, like at the same time, that it's just them. I want to remove any type of error or situations or objections that they're going to have, and kind of not necessarily rely on them saying, hey, it was just me of why I was not able to succeed. But it really is that. And it's super frustrating for them. Like I'll have guys like stay longer knowing that I know like their habits is something that we already preempted, just because they already knew what the expectations were. And now they just have to deliver. So even if someone doesn't last long in our office, the conversation is always in good standing. It's always respected. We always have, like, oh, I really feel like I wish I could have done better. I know it was me. Like literally 9 out of 10 guys will always say, I knew it was me. I knew I could have done this. I knew I should have done that better. And I would rather that versus saying, oh, I wish I should have prepped them. Oh, I wish I should have preempted them, so that makes sense. Now we're moving on to week 2, because week 1 is complete. And week 2 is pretty much making sure that we rehash what we went over. Now they've seen the field. It's time to start learning how to maximize the sale component, and also making sure mentality is implied at the same time. And the reason why I say mentality, because you see here on their evaluations, I'm looking for the trends of like things that need to work on. Some of my guys are weak in CPR. Some of my guys are weak in the close. Some of my guys are weak in confidence. Right. So we need to know that early, because we need to keep working on it until they get better. We go over tablet practice, building it, making sure they're pressing the right buttons. And files, you press that one wrong button and you just raise that person's bill by $20, and that could have been your sale. I want to emphasize rebuttals and scene factors. I remember one time someone's like, I don't like to do rebuttals on the field. I'm like, you're never going to set the pace. Because I know that if I didn't set, rebuttal couple customers, I wouldn't have done 3, 4s, and 5s, right? So you don't have to do rebuttals. Just know you're going to be a one-hit wonder. Just saying. And I let my guys know that to appreciate, when somebody gives them objections. I also go over scene factors, not for me, for my customer, right? I want you to read and receive the smiling. I want you to receive enthusiasm back. I want you to receive nodding back from your customers, because if I'm nodding and smiling and the customer's not doing it, I need to know I need to stop. I need to ice break and say, hey, this customer is not giving me scene factors. What do I need to do? A lot of times we're pitching correctly, or our new hires pitching correctly, but they're not reading the customer that's watching them. So that's something I kind of emphasize a lot more, which helps, tremendously for everyone coming in. And then just going over features and benefits. We went to Virginia, a month and a half ago, and we did this features and benefits, workshop where I'm like, hey, paint the picture of why the gig is great, and then transition. And honestly, that same day, the whole office just went, really dynamic, and all you're doing is getting the marbles out. And benefits is not just 365 feet around the house. It's, hey, remember when you said you were in the back room and the internet was spotty? Yeah, our internet covers 365 feet, where you and your family will have full coverage all over the home. And just to make sure it makes sense, like how many boxes, like transition back to pitch. So we do a lot of, package scenarios to get them ready to, spit out the right information. Strike zone and closing circle is really the most challenging systems for my guys to comprehend. They know it, they can teach it, but they can't do it on the field. And I feel like even for me right now, we've been working on how to get our guys to master it. I remember I did a scenario. I like to play with my new hires sometimes and see if I switch this up. I remember I taught this young lady just to close. I didn't even teach her, I just don't do this, but I taught her just to close. And she closed every single customer. I mean, her sales are off the rocket, but her cancels were high, right? Because she wasn't obviously explaining things properly. So I just learned from that situation that, hey, the close is important, the intro is important, but the information in between is going to make sure the customer lasts a long time. So sometimes a lot of offices, if you're just driving sales, you're focusing on closing. Everything is important equally. The intro is just as important as the close. The presentation is just important as the intro. So we kind of like have them understand that if you miss one, the others will falter. And last but not least, compliance. Every Thursday we go over compliance, and we also make sure that this is actually the Thursday on my, Thursday point that we kind of go over about why it is important to rehash with your customers, why it's important to follow up. If our cancels go high, I'm so surprised. Like, I have no idea what is going on, because we are super, focused on making sure people feel honest and transparent. And I love that my new hires tell our guys, like, I didn't feel like they were pushy. I didn't feel like you're forcing them. Customers naturally wanted the service. That's how you want to run your office, where, new hires are seeing a lot of sales and saying, wow, these sales are actually genuine sales. Like, these are not a forceful position. And that's just because my guys rehash. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think one of the things I like is, we talk a lot about like the relationship building side of new hires, like getting them to meet somebody that's similar to them, doing dinners and stuff like that. But one of the things we haven't hit on a lot is like teaching them how to be successful in the field, and how that is a major factor in someone sticking to the business or not. If we're sloppy with training and we don't have the rebuttals, and we're not teaching people properly on how to handle, closing in strike zones and all the different things. And on top of that, you mentioned the cancels, when we're not being clear about how we get paid in terms of, hey, signing up a customer does not equal an actual sale. Signing up a customer is the beginning of the process. Once they install, that's the end of it. There was a guy in my office, he's brand new, he's killing it. He's done like 10 apps in 4 days. And this is on 5G. He's doing really well at the gate. And so his leader is so pumped. And I go, we gotta change our tune. We got to immediately turn this into, hey, we got to make sure these are good customers. Because I know you're so excited, but this person is going to be deflated if in 2 weeks they get a really crappy paycheck, because their hopes are high. They think, wow, I'm making money, I'm doing great. So you guys listen to Odrine. She's very transparent about the compliance, about installs, about cancels. She's talking about it from the moment she hires someone. She's not just using this blanket of sales to get people excited and then ignores the reality of how people make money. And you guys may be doing amazing dinners. You might be doing amazing Zoom calls, but if your people have really crappy paychecks, it's not going to happen. And I think it's one of the most, and the money that we have per sale is incredible today. So the fact that people are not making $1,000, it just means that the training's sloppy. It means that the leadership in the room is not holding people accountable, and they're afraid to talk about the truth. And if you don't talk about the truth, you're going to lose people. So I can just tell by listening to Odrine, she's so detail oriented, but she's really focused on giving people the tools to be successful. Because if people aren't making money, again, you can be great relationship building. People are going to leave. They're going to take another job. Doesn't matter how great the opportunity is. So I love the fact that you hit that on the head the moment people start. You're not afraid to talk about how we get paid is based on activations, not just sales.
Yeah. And honestly, I have this really stubborn leader in my office, and he makes a lot of sales. And one of the most humbling moments between we're very combative in the office, and it's just because he is super high performing and he wants to do it his way, and his cancers are super high. And usually people are defensive in other offices, but he wasn't. And I was shocked. I was expecting him to fight me on this. He told another rep saying, oh no, I just got to work on my rehash. I already know what I need to do to fix it. Like anyone else would have, flipped the table. I mean, he does like 35 to 40 KPIs a week, a month in our office. So he's a high performer. He's not doing little sales, and his cancel shot up to 30%. I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, I already know what I did. I'm sorry. I know how to fix it. I'm not worried about it. I know my paychecks are lower because of this and this and this. And I honestly was really focused on driving the numbers versus cleaning it up. And I know how to clean it up. And he was so confident. And I was just like, okay. And that's when it hit me. I'm like, okay, cool. We actually have a good, understanding in the office. No matter how headstrong a person is, they're able to logically solve their situations versus me saying, hey, just letting you know your paycheck's not going to be good. Like they already know beforehand, right? So that is super helpful. On the other side of my week too, I kind of like go into understanding like what is an A player versus an F player. Habits and routines are huge. It's honestly one of my biggest annoyance, because if someone starts to come late, they will always be late. If someone misses day, they will always miss days. So I kind of like to let you know early, who you are and what you're about to do. So I say, hey, we have a field A player and an F player. Which one do you want to be, Van? And he's, and I'm like, I want to be an A player. Perfect. Okay. So you're going to make sure you're on time. And you know what step 2 says, right? If you're early, you're on time, you're late. If you're late, you're left behind. Now the F player, they come in late and they give excuses. Do you want to be that person? Like, no. Okay, cool.
No
so
way.
I knocked this out. All right. The next is check-in time. So we always make sure people are checking in on the field, 4:30, 6 o'clock. I am doing a lot in the office. I'm doing all my calls, so I want to make sure that even if I'm not on the field with my guys, I know what's happening. And if I need to hop out, I have no problem hopping out. So even for my outside deals, I told Aditya, I said, hey, check your check-in time at 4:30, because how your office starts is also how they finish. Everyone has a strong finish, but it's better to even give yourself that grace period. So at 4 and 6, every single rep in my office posts their stats and posts how many sales they've done so far. So I can see if we have good momentum going or not. So, even for me, I'm humble enough to know that our office does over 100 apps, cool. But if we're not by 10 apps by 4:30 or 6 apps by 4:30, if you're a smaller office, you need to hop out. I need to know that I need to hop out. So I tell my A player and F player, say, hey, if you do not check in at 4:36, I don't think you're working and you're not getting training pay. Right? That's it. Just post your stats. If you don't post it, you're not working. Don't tell me you were in the press because you didn't even close. Right? So I'm very intense on that because I need to know who's working. And I also want to know that if you are not working, I can tell because you couldn't even post your stats, or your stats are like fake. They're like 20 talk tos for press. Really? No closes? Come on. So I kind of set that standard. Break versus reset. The A player knows that a break is 5 to 10 minutes long, right? And they have to like get themselves going, call their leader, make sure they do what they need to do. The F player thinks they could sit down in a corner, smoke a vape on the field, sit in front of a customer's house, play loud music, take a 30 minutes to an hour break, go home and come back. That's an F player. So I'm telling you what other people have done before. So that way, if you get caught, you cannot say, I did not know, right? I am telling you the challenges, and the people on this call, do not act like you don't know what these guys do. All right. We've been in this game for a long time, right? I've seen it. So I want to let you know that people have tried it before. I'm going to let you know that if you do it, I have all rights to let you go because you just broke that rule. Phone versus and distractions. New hires are always on their phone. So if leaders are not cleaning it up on the first week, sorry, you lost your opportunity. So you want to say, hey, I'm glad, I know you have certain things you need to do, but when you're on the field, I want you to make sure your phone is in your pocket, keep it on silent, on vibrate, and only if it's really emergency to pick it up. Please don't be on social media. So an A player stays focused, is only using their phone to check in or call their leader. An F player is on social media, scrolling down, calling their family, picking up calls, doing a whole, personal situation while on the clock. Do you want to be that person? They're like, no, I don't. Perfect. As long as we're on the same page. Settle ups. An A player breaks their day down on their good days and their bad days. And that player only gets their day broken down on bad days. Meaning that I want you to always break your day down. I want you to know why you did good. I also want you to know why you did bad, right? So we can repeat. Also on week 2, I introduce you to cross-sell. I know I learned from Alexa and Aaron's office about like, you want to talk about both. You want to talk about Fios and wireless from the time of, the presentation. If you wait until the end, you may forget. If you choose one or the other, you're going to forget. So showing them how to do the wireless cross-sell and also saying, hey, this is an extra bonus. I made a joke in Atlanta. I'm like, people always say, oh, I need more money. I'm like, here's your part-time job, cross-sell. So that was my joke there. So people say, I need more money. I'm like, you have wireless. You have Inspire, you have Ready Refresh, cross-sell. That is your extra gig, your extra, bonus, your extra base pay that you give to yourself on your own terms. So on week 2, I'm setting standards and I'm also introducing to making them more money. I gave you a better opportunity for the position. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely.
Perfect. So now, week 2 is really when the rep is on the field. So we go into week 3 and we want to drive performance. And at the same time, I want to remind them that you got to get to leadership. They're like, wait, I just finished training. I was like, I know, but I hired you because I knew that you're a fast learner because you said it in your interview. I hired you because you said you have a grace mentality. I hired you because you said that you're going to hit any target I tell you. So I'm going to give you the target. Sometimes people don't perform because you just didn't tell them. You say you're waiting for time or you're waiting. I don't wait. I say, hey, shoot for 10, right? On the 3rd week. And they're like, what? I had so many hit 10s on their 3rd week. I was just shocked. I was like, why did I not tell them earlier? And we asked them, why did they hit 10? They're like, because you told me to. And you'll be surprised that just that one line is enough. I kind of stole this from Danny, where they kind of focus on qualifying days. So I say, hey, I want you to set the pace 3 times in a week, not just hitting 10. So making sure that they're able to do more than ones in a days, having that as a new standard. I did implement that a couple of weeks ago. So that was really cool. It definitely gave the entry levels who were underperforming more confidence, saying, hey, I knew I did 3, so I know I can do it again, right? Versus, oh, I just did 1, right? Time management is key because I always tell sometimes new hires will spend too much time with a customer. So I say, hey, you have 10 minutes to close this customer after you qualify them. And if that 10-minute clock runs out, you have to go. And if you want to make that sale, you need to drive urgency and Fuji factors to get that done now. So a lot of times new hire says, oh, I spent an hour with this customer and they still didn't get it. I want to remove that early, right? Because driving performance is not just selling, it's knowing what happens in the presentation so we can get results. I also explained fun field goals. When you're good at the field, it's honestly second nature. Like I went to the field a couple of weeks ago and I knocked on one door and they bought it. And I was so annoyed. I was like, you didn't even give me a rebuttal. You didn't even give me an objection. Come on, like make this hard. So I hopped in with one of my guys. I just think it's dumb now for me, but I hopped in with my guys and I was like, oh, you want to count how many Volvos we find outside? Or, you want to see how many, customers I can, pitch with an accent, I just make it really fun for them. So kind of make it fun and light and say, hey, you have to be creative because every day you're doing this until you hit your target, which is management. So you want to make sure that you have that creativity. I even have guys from the past before I got promoted, like text me a picture of a Volvo saying, hey, remember when we were on the field counting Volvos? That's good. Like I want them to say they have good memories on the field about me and the training. And then also going over personal record. PR is big for me because I ran track. I know my records, 1311, which is 43 feet, 612, I jumped 21 feet before. So knowing my records, it really pushed me to say, hey, I have stats. My guys know their records because it gives them pride. And my new hire, I want to say, hey, like did you know that you're better than, some of my leaders so far? You actually hit 10 and they didn't even do that last week. That's your new record. And like, wow, I didn't even realize that. So, have them know their stats gives them more sense of pride. And also the record board. If you go to Brian's office in Harrisburg, it's like Brian, which is exciting. If I was a new hire, I want to beat my manager. I love it. I don't think I don't think anyone should downgrade the fact that they're good. I think you should know that I was a high roller, which is why I run the office. And I want you to know that if you're trying to run the office, you got to beat me, or you got to beat my best guy. So showing them the record board shows them, hey, you're here, you're driving towards something. And when they're running an office, now Aditya is looking at the tracker. He's like, I'm just trying to get to the top because all I ever saw was us in the top. So why should I settle? So it kind of trains our, the new hires really early that they want to be the best. They want to be top because it's just safer that way. And then making sure their teach backs are getting completed. And they're like, why? Because you're getting promoted. Remember, you told me you're going to hit 10. So I kind of said that early. I'm like, hey, you got to do your teach back because you're getting promoted today, this week. So it kind of gets them excited. The ZDA trackers should be pretty much 90% completed. And I'm like, hey, it's week 3. You got to get that bonus. You want to get promoted. That's cool. But we got bills to pay. Let's get that bonus. So I remind them that, hey, I need you and you need this bonus. So we have a win-win situation. So in my office, we have that if you're able to hit 10 on that 3rd week, you get an extra $500. And honestly, this is a win-win situation. You're not losing money doing this whatsoever. All you're doing is getting this person to say, wow, this company believes in me. They're investing on me. They want me to do this so bad that they're willing to pay me more money to do my job. And it just sets the tone for all new hires that, hey, like, let's get this going early. And, the guys that were able to get that bonus are my best leaders. I'm not kidding. They're the best ones. The other side is just tracking their sales and learning how pay works. I'm like, hey, I want you to tell me your paycheck. Like, what? I'm like, tell me, what are you getting this week? They're like, oh, I think I did 9 apps. Did it get installed? So, knowing early what to do. I know I have a new hire in my old office. I call him my secret assassin. He's like, oh, I made $700 so far. I'm like, let's go, So it gets them excited. And then understanding that they have to learn how to break their own day down, because I want them to know before, while they're on the field, what's the trends that's happening, and to force them to network. So they're networking with everyone in the office, they network with an outside leader, getting that, making it an aggressive habit. And they usually go on a road trip. So that road trip allows them to learn more about, hey, you're a top performer. You need to meet other top performers outside our office, right? So it's on the next slide, but it's pretty much showing that, hey, I want you to have a one-on-one with 3 top people in our office. And I want you to, make sure you're networking every single week. Like, if you're not meeting new people, you're not trying to get better here. So that's pretty much how week 3 works. Is just, hey, let's go hard, let's go big, and let's learn about how we can, break everything down. And also, now you're a big dog, let's meet other big dogs, because you're pretty much who you surround yourself with. So if they're networking with top performers, it kind of keeps them engaged. And I kind of think back of when I first started that I knew every single manager, which made me want to be a manager more, and also made me had higher expectations. I remember being on the field and Mike Lay would call me while I'm training. I'm like, oh shit, Mike Lay's calling me on the field. And I was like, oh my God, I got to set the pace. And he's like, where'd you at? I'm like, 1. He goes, oh, call me back. I had something to ask you, but call me back when you're at 2. I'm like, now I have to set the pace because I can't, I'm not going to let Mike lay down. So I remember little stuff like that. That was a big deal for me. So I want my guys to have a similar experience to what drove me when I first started. So that's pretty much my 3 weeks of cycle development for my new hires.
That's great. A couple of things I took away. First of all, I know that you covered the Z to A tracker on a different meeting you ran. I know we got a lot of new leaders since then. Can I request that gets sent out to everybody? Can you send it out to the owners again? Because I know it was, and the owners, and if you're a leader on this call, bug your owner, because the Z-Day tracker is really cool. It like breaks down all the different things that your people have to learn. It's like its own little checklist of cycle development. It's awesome. Second thing I love is the record board. I love that. I love when an office has records that people can shoot for. We know our business is not about sales, it's about management. But the fact that Odrine creates a fun culture where she's using the competitiveness of her people to their advantage, where people are trying to break records. You heard Odrine, she did track and she knew her personal records. She knew exactly what she did. And not just the records for the office, but having a good understanding of what everybody's individual best days are and best weeks are. And then using those in conversations. Hey, Odrine, you're in your third week. What's been your best day so far? When I used to train people, that was a question I always asked. Hey, what was your best day? What's been your best day? They say, oh, I've done 2. We're going to break that record today. We're going to practice pitch so much that you're going to go out there and you're going to break that. What's your best week? Oh, we're going to crush that. And just getting people to think about being better, right? And you're hearing about, Odrine's using the structure of the product knowledge, of the pitch, of, teaching people how to be successful with their habits in the field, the preparation to have them be the most successful with customers, to increase their paychecks, to now these people are starting to think, wait a second, I think there's an opportunity here. Because what Odrine does really well is she gets them to do really well in the beginning. Because if they're doing well in the field, if they're prepared, if they see structure, if they're getting sales, they're getting paid. Now they're going to be like, so what's this opportunity, Odrine? What's this whole thing about running an office? But some of us are so freaking sloppy that we talk opportunity, but people get hired on and it's like they get chewed up because there's no structure and there's no systems that they're being taught. And people are all over the place with their cancer rates and no one knows what's going on. And it all seems like we're motivated and excited, yet the retention is going to really plummet without that structure. And then my last thing I'll say is networking with managers, right? You heard that Odrine talking to people outside of her office. Get your new people to network immediately with people outside of your office, people that they have something in common with. And as you guys hear, if you implement structure, if you're not a structured person like me that needed to copy smart people like Odrine, this is why we do these calls. You can copy, and take it and apply it to your own situation. Okay. We went over by like 10 minutes, Odrine.
My bad.
We totally blew it. It's okay. But I want to make sure that before we end the call today, that if you guys have questions about the topic of initial training, the topic of cycle development, the topic of retention, as we go into, April and May, and I know that Odrine said this wasn't a real winter, but we are going into the best time of our business. There's really, of course we can talk about September, which is a great time for recruiting. And I'm kind of biased. I think every month's the greatest month, but if you really think about our business is in a residential format, and some of you guys are, doing different stuff in retail too, but we have this time of year where the days are longer, the weather's better. We have this huge influx of new applicants from graduating college. A lot of people, studies have shown in the spring and summer when people change their careers, they look to try something different. And we are the biggest we've ever been. We have the clients are paying us the most. So man, if you guys can implement structure into our opportunity we already have, it only is going to help you. So I'll kick off one question I have for you, Odrine. What do you do outside of the sort of training structure? Is there anything extra you do for new hires to make them feel important, to make them feel special? When you've identified someone that you really believe in, is there anything you do with those people?
I usually always have one-on-ones with them just to kind of get to know like why you're doing it. I do challenge a lot on the first 2 weeks, like, all right, are you sure you can handle the standards? And just kind of get to know them. If it's like a fun thing I do, like if it's their birthday, we celebrate their birthdays. If it's a family, if they live alone, I want to know that they live alone. If they live with their family, I want to know that they live with their family and preempt them. I remember for one of my new hires, Justin, on his first week, I said, hey, do you live with your parents? And he goes, oh, I live with my grandma. I'm like, oh, get ready. I was like, I want to make sure that you're able to explain to your grandma what you're doing. She's going to make sure, she's going to be cautious that her son is on his own in a field outside in New York. He goes, nah, she's not going to care. And literally a week after, he's like, oh my God, my grandma was haggling me today. He's like, you told me this was going to happen. And he was really confident to be able to explain it to her. And I said, hey, if anything happens, just call me. And he called me like while he was with his grandmother. And I spoke to her and reassured her. And the fact that he knew he can go to me was really helpful. So I kind of want to know like their living arrangement, because I know what objections are going to be picked up, just being on the field and also outside your family, family's interpretation of the position, and knowing that, hey, call me if any of these things happen, so I have your back. So that's like one extra thing I do. just so they know that I can help them, because at the end of the day, we have to work together.
Yeah. So yeah, that's great. And you guys heard, she gets to know her people. She figures out who's in their life, who's important to them. Oh, this person lives with their grandma. Let's have a conversation about how you talk to her. Hey, let's, your significant other, let's grab dinner. Getting to know your people, knowing their lives and what's important to them. And then you can tailor the business to what's important to them. So we have a question here about what is on your training PowerPoint? I know it's a lot. It's a big question.
Everything, every single system, even how to do a click to call, like pictures. My pictures are crazy. How to do a click to call, how to cross Inspire, every single system. I'll share it as well.
Okay. She's going to share all of her good stuff, guys. We're very lucky. So we have a question here. And this was something, there was an email sent last night. I don't know if you saw it, Odrine, about the definition of sharp, and what is a sharp candidate. And I think it's kind of interesting because I think leaders are trying to always ask that question. What qualities do we look for in a person that would make them potentially good at this? And so this question, I'm interested to hear your answer, but this question is, out of a group of new starts, how do you identify who you should spend the most time with? So if you got a team of people, going to be your leader with 2, 3, 4 people in your team, who should you spend the most time with?
I spend the most time, and I actually spoke to you about this yesterday, so that's funny. I want to spend the most time with the person that has a lot of questions in an innocent way, where they just want to learn more. I want to spend time with someone who wants to take initiative and ask me, what else can I do in the office? I want to spend time with a person that is eager to learn more about the business, about me, about my growth, my timeline, and anyone else that can make it more similar to them. So I look for soft skills, believe it or not. I'm not looking for the bestseller. I'm not looking for the person that's overachieving. I want someone who wants to learn more. That's really all I care about. If you want to learn more, I love that, because I could just fill you up with more information that's going to help you.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a conversation last night on an email about someone that comes in that, whatever, went to Goldman Sachs or has this amazing resume and dresses, to the nines and has all this charisma and confidence, but they're just not willing to, do the grunt work. They'd rather take, less money, have an easier job. And sometimes when we look at people that have fancy resumes, or, they dress really nice or they talk really good, but they're not really hungry and desperate to be successful. And the key word really is humble, right? Is you look for someone who's humble, who wants to be successful, is willing to do whatever it takes. And there's people in our business that are extremely intelligent, that have master's degrees, that have done an amazing amount of studying and education, but it doesn't take away from the fact that they really want an opportunity, right? They're not too cool for school. And of course, the negatives of the field are there, but our business is full of so much opportunity that we're not looking to convince someone that, doing face-to-face or residential or door-to-door to get into a position of management within 6-8 months. We can't convince people that's great. They're going to look at it, and you as the owner, you as the leader, have to be the example of it. And we know the results speak for themselves, where we are today versus where we were. So if I'm looking at my new starts, I'm looking for the things that Odrine said: initiative, asking questions, excited, having a good attitude, appreciating the fact that they get to represent the clients they do, and they're excited. And if someone's skeptical, you don't disqualify them. You don't say, oh, you're not into it right away, so screw you. No, you take the time, you answer questions, but being skeptical is different than not being humble, right? There's a totally different things. And you got to recognize that when you bring in new people to your team. And if they're skeptical, get them with the manager, get them on a Zoom, have them see a bigger office. But if they're not humble, if they really think they're above what we're doing, then tell them it's all good. Kill them with kindness and have them move on. A question here is, how do you talk belief into someone? Is that something you can talk someone into, having more belief in themselves?
Oh, confidence. So I feel like from being an athlete, we always had to motivate each other to compete. So I just tell my leaders who are training their new hires, like, hey, just assume that they're going to be nervous, scared, and not confident. And I want you to gas them up, just like your friends when they're doing something new, like, oh my, make every little detail so amazing. And I know it seems dramatic, but it does go a long way, and it makes them feel like, wow, like this person is counting on me. This person is, rooting for me. So, just building confidence is making people smile more, it's making them feel included. And it's also giving them a constant feedback that they're doing the right things. That's all people are lacking when they're not confident, that they're doing the wrong things. They feel like it's wrong or incorrect. So I like to remind them, daily about the things that they improved on, and also look for ways to make them smile, make them laugh, and recognize them for the things that they were struggling before. So they are aware that I'm aware of their improvements.
Yeah, belief is, confidence and belief is tough because, essentially someone's got to have some of it. Your people have to have some confidence in themselves. They got to have some belief. Obviously there's variance to that, but if someone's got no confidence, it is a major uphill battle. And I tell people, hey, give your best shot to, reassure them. But if you got a person on your team that you're constantly, 3-4 days in telling them, hey, it's okay. Hey, you got this. Hey, just trust yourself. This may not be the best fit for them. And I'm not telling everybody what to do, but typically the people who do well, it's not that they're great salespeople, but they got a little bit of confidence. They got a little bit of ego, right? They got a little bit of, hey, I could do this if somebody else does it. And it doesn't mean people who don't have that can't do this, but they've got to have some of it. They can't have zero confidence or zero belief. And I think the best way to inspire that in people is to have it yourself, and to just say, hey, I'm like you. I was nervous. I was this, I was that. And put yourself down and put the owner down about what they did before this and how they're not that qualified to run a business. But guess what? This is what they did, right? Okay, last question here. When you have a new start that has great potential, that's losing interest, right? Losing their attitude, losing motivation, whatever. How do you retrain them?
Why? I was like, why? Like, why are they losing interest? Why are they losing their attitude? Because even if you retrain them, they're still losing their attitude. It's kind of hard to retrain somebody with a bad attitude. You're just going to get a temporary Band-Aid. So I want to first figure out why did they lose their attitude, because it could be an outside influence that we need to make sure they're able to solve and give attention to so they can focus. If they're losing interest, I want to know what changed between now and the day you started. Because the first week you started, you were excited, and now you're not. What happened? And I kind of like go back in time, and then I retrain them after I feel like I was able to solve those situations. I feel like a lot of times when people are losing interest, they try to retrain them, but I feel like sometimes it's too late. They get 1 or 2 sales a couple of days after, then they still quit because we still didn't solve how they felt, or we didn't solve, the reason behind it. So I do like to understand why a person reacted to a certain situation before just trying to fix the situation.
Yeah. And I also think like you said, like if someone's not excited, get to the bottom of it, ask them, hey, is everything okay? What's going on with you? And, there's a difference between, having a question and just having a bad attitude. Some people, this is why, we let the field be the filter, like I don't want to decide whether someone can do this or not based on the interview. I want to see what they got when we get out there, because you never know. But after a couple of days, if someone's just not excited, my rule of thumb, there's really 2 of them. Number 1, I teach my guys, don't talk to customers who have bad attitudes. Disqualify them, get out of there. Your job is not to turn a no into a yes. And rule number 2 is don't work with people who have bad attitudes. So if someone comes in the office with a bad attitude, they don't get to stay in the office. You're not rude. You're not disrespectful. You just say, hey, Odrine, we like you. There's nothing personal, but you got to take the day off. You got to go home and figure this out. We can't have you here representing Verizon if you're this upset. And maybe, hey, take the day. And if you need more time, take the week. I remember, I forget who it was, but they said they told someone to take a month off. That's a long time. But the point was, hey, like you can't be here if you're not excited. And that's the one thing that it's a choice, right? Your skill level may be low, but your attitude, you got to choose to come in here with the right mentality. Otherwise we can't train you. We're an attitude business. We represent clients. We talk to consumers. We are a commercial. So I think for anybody that's trying to convince people to cheer up constantly, be nice, get them with the manager, but maybe it's better if that person just goes home for the day or does something different. And again, you really are nice to these people on the way out. You're not rude or disrespectful. You're empathetic, but make sure the attitude is always your qualifier for whether it's customers in the field or people you work with. So, all right, Odrine, we used up the whole hour just because you're such a good speaker and you have such good topics, and all the information we got today is great. I am going to ask though, if you could send out your structure, your Z to A tracker, your PowerPoint. Obviously the guys love that stuff. And anytime that we get off calls with you and people like Dana who have the structure, it really helps the business because people need it. Guys like me, we need people like you because you help us with the structure. So
Thank you.
thank you so much, Odrine. Great talk today. I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody at R&R. We got a couple more of these calls coming up. I think we have 4 more speakers over the next 8 weeks. So keep tuning in, guys. Spread the word, ask questions on these calls. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.